How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Ballista build part 3. Huge shout out to today's sponsor, no one. I said a few times in the last video I couldn't really get a full draw out of this thing because the picnic table just wasn't long enough, but I kind of got to know what that is before I even get to building. Otherwise I won't know what length to make the track, so I think it's time for some rickety, creakety, indoor Ballista stress testing. Sounds good. Personally, I got my fingers crossed for 6 feet. I think that'd be pretty epic. 6 feet. Close enough. Oh wow. Holy moly. That looks like a problem, and that looks like a solution. Using my super giant, big, smart brain and thoughts, I projected into the future and predicted that this would happen because I saw that it was cracking already. It was already cracking after like the first test, and I kept on doing it epically, of course. So I was already gonna remake this whole entire box thing that I got here to hold the prod. For the pipe clamp part, oh brother.
English is my Lieblingsfach, Lieblingsfach, Lieblingsfach.
For the pipe clamp cracking problem, I think that was it. I had some leftover oak plywood from actually making that thing, making this this here shelf. This super tough stuff, 3/4 inch oak plywood. Chopped it up, sanded off all the varnish so the glue would stick perfectly, stacked them up, and boom, the worst birthday cake of all time. So basically, I'm just gonna chop this thing up into 2x4s and process the pieces in the same way that I did with the 2x4s in the last video, and make some new pipe clamps. The difference, of course, being it's not only plywood, it's also hardwood. Plywood don't split. It would if you drilled it from like the side, the edge, but don't do that. From the front though, where I'm drilling in through, problem solved. Now on this new box thing, that hole that I had in the front for the arrow to pass through, we're gonna make it double wide so we can actually get some fletchings on whatever it is that I decide to shoot out of the finished version. We can't really go any taller because it still has to pass in between the two PVC pipes, but to make it wider, we're just gonna do 2 holes side by side. Nice. We're gonna safely and securely clamp our workpiece down to the table, and then we're gonna do 2 holes side by side and then finish the cut with a jigsaw. So this is about as far as I can go without attaching the track. Here's the anatomy of the thing. It's a couple of 2x4s with a 2x3 sandwiched in between. We know that the draw length is 6 feet from the baseboard, so I'm gonna give 12 inches for the winch and the firing mechanism, so if my calculations are correct, this thing is big as frick, boy. This thing will screw onto the front of the track, and there will be some form of support on there that I haven't decided yet. Now, I spent way more time than I probably should have trying to figure out how to attach this 1¼ inch angle steel into the frame, because of course I can't just put screws in through the top. They'll block the arrow, right? Right. So I'm out here like, do I gotta glue it in? Ugh, gross. Do I gotta weld bolts underneath and pass them through the 2x3? Ugh. I'm thinking about weird stuff like cutting flanges into it and bending them, and then it occurs to me, I'm not shooting square tubing out of this thing. Just put screws in it and the round stuff will pass right over it. I have a little bit of a tendency to overthink, can you tell? Alrighty, this glue should be bone dry so I can get all these screws out of here. Get them out of the way. And you know what? I was about to glue my 2x4s on, but I just realized these screw holes are actually exactly where I need to drill for my bolts. Don't want to waste that. Alrighty, now to glue up, a few more screws, hold that in place. And I just decided last minute I want to do something weird. Now with the final addition of these supports on the side, which I created by laying a 2x4 at a 45-degree angle across the edge of the box and tracing underneath it, cutting it out with the bandsaw. Ooh, look at that fit. And this 100% completely non-sus pipe. I'm finally able to stick the prod on there. Very exciting. This is going to be the first time I get to see all the stuff that I got finished so far all put together. Let's get it done. A little bit of double-sided tape, make my vinyl sticking job a lot easier. In addition to all the pipe clamps being plywood now, we're also going all bolts, no screws allowed. 3/8" bolts and 6 of them, where we used to have what, 2 bolts and 4 screws. Pathetic. Don't worry guys, that's the old me. Tighten down on them good nylon lock nuts. Just like that, we're ready to string this bad boy up. I don't know if you could tell from the previous videos, but I've struggled to figure out like a really simple way to do this. It's always this crazy mess of knots and loops. I think I figured out the best way to do it though. You start with just one big loop of rope and you run it across the front and literally just drape it right over the spacers. Then you get your hooks into the ends of the loop, run your webbing around the back of the track and just crank it down. It's been really nice taking a lot of time on this build, being able to put as much time as I need to into every aspect of it to optimize it as well as possible. Like for example, just the very simple idea of having hooks on the ends of the bowstring so you don't have to mess with like trying to tie knots under tension every single time you want to string up your bow. Ugh, it's a game changer. Speaking of hooks in your bowstring, I don't know if I ever really explained to you guys how I string up these pulley bows. Got some pretty good shots here, so I might as well. You start with putting one of your hooks in that garage door pulley hardware on one end. You run your string over that non-sus pipe and then around the front of the other pulley. Then the string goes over the track or under the non-sus pipe, around the back of the first pulley, again over the non-sus pipe, and you hook into the hardware. And you're good, ready to unlock the ratchet. Alrighty guys, first shot, very excited to say the least. Got basically the same setup as I've been doing with the ratchet strap. Next episode, we're making a really legit winch, but I'm trying to shoot, so let's do this. Here's the learning experience though. I was thinking like, oh, now that I have a track, I can shoot shorter projectiles, but I kind of overdid it with the shortness. And the bolt was so short that when I knocked it, it was like pointing down into the track. Bruh. You probably see where this is going. Somehow I didn't. I would love to say those sparks were just from the Ballista being so powerful that it, yeah, nah man, I hit the screws. Busted off 2 screw heads completely and destroyed the bolt. Had to go through this crazy process of taking the track off. Invented a cool way to remove a screw with a busted head. This is not working. So that's pretty cool. That's like a W from an L. Just to be a little safer, I countersunk the screws this time. Much clearer runway, as you can see. And finally, the next day, we can get some real testing done. So those were the good shots. I'm sure some of you guys could even tell from those. I was really struggling with the consistency, not just with the accuracy and hitting the target, but just with like the direction that the thing was flying out. And once I realized the problem, I couldn't believe I didn't see it sooner. Just watch this horrendous shot that I did with another one of those short bolts and tell me you somehow cannot immediately identify the problem. Literally pointing straight down. Gosh. So bad, the Ballista literally commits Sudoku in Minecraft out of shame. And this is what it looked like after. I swear I did not mess with this absolute goofy Ballista bolt. Did you figure out what it was? My supports on the side are acting like a ramp and the bowstring is sliding just fine down the track, but as soon as it hits the end, it slides up the ramp, Tony Hawk style, and flings the back end of the bolt up. And you get this atrocity that you're witnessing here. And then other times it flings it up and it actually hits the plywood and bounces out that way. You can see by how it shredded off this part of the fletching here. And then occasionally the two seem to counteract each other and it flies out relatively straight. But I'm not trying to roll the dice every time I shoot this thing. I want consistency. So for the next video, I gotta do string stoppers to stop the ramping thing. I'm doing the winch, I'm doing the trigger mechanism, I'm doing some kind of a stand that I can aim, and I've got some pretty cool ideas for a new pulley system that doesn't have remotely as much friction as this thing with the pipe. Really cool stuff right around the corner. You're not gonna wanna miss it, that's for sure. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you do that. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.